What if I told you there's this easy way to make anything uniquely yours? You can grab your favorite pictures or your cool designs and literally print them on wood, canvas, glass, whatever you want. And you don't need any special skills or any fancy equipment. All you need is a printer and a little bit of Mod Podge. So come hang out with me. I'm going to show you how you can do these awesome, cheap, and totally magical image transfers that anyone can do. Hi, Deidre here from Our Upcycled Life, and today I'm excited to show you how you can do a image transfer onto any type of surface. Today we're going to be doing it on canvas, but you can also do it on wood, on glass, on anything that you can find at the thrift store that you can put paint on. We can do an image transfer. So today what we've got is this canvas that we picked up. It was $5.99 at Value Village. It's really dated. It's not really something that's going to fit my aesthetic. So I have picked out a graphic that I have designed, and we're going to transfer that onto this canvas. And like I said before, we can do this on any type of surface. If you don't have a canvas, you can do it on wood. And this is the actual graphic that we're going to be using. This is available in my Etsy store. You can find it there. You can also find it in my Shopify store or in my graphic club. It's already in the library, so you can grab it, you can download it, and craft with it right away. When you're doing a project like this for an image transfer, the most important step is to have a base for that image transfer to adhere to. So what we're going to do first, we're going to take this canvas and we are going to paint it with some of our new and improved chalk paint. This is a new recipe that I kind of just stumbled upon and discovered, and I'm absolutely loving. I have a full tutorial on how to make it, and I'll put that link down below in the description, or you can find it right here. I'll put a QR code right here and mix them up and try it on some of your next DIY projects. Works fantastic. But this is a perfect base for image transfer. That way you know you're going to have a successful project when you're done by painting it with this. So the first thing that we're going to do is get a coat on this canvas. Before we paint, I think I should tell you everything that you're going to need before you start this project. Of course, we're going to need the chalk paint that we just talked about, paintbrush. I like to make mine look a little bit rustic, so we're going to use wax. This is just pillar wax from a candle that I picked up at the dollar store. Any type of candle will work. We're going to use my favorite crafting project in my craft room, trusty Mod Podge matte. It will work with a glossy, but I find the results are much nicer with a matte finish. So that's what you're going to need. And then to seal up our project after it's all done, we're going to use a water-based polyacrylic sealer. Make sure you're using a water-based sealer. If you're using an oil base, you're going to find right away that it's going to start to yellow on you. So grab some of this. All of these are going to be linked down below in the description. They're easily found at your hardware store or on Amazon. You're also going to need a graphic, and like we talked before, this is one that's in my Etsy store that I designed myself. I love, it's got kind of like that spring summer vibe. And you want to make sure you're taking this graphic and you want to put it in a Word program and reverse the text. Because when you're doing a transfer, if you're not doing the reverse, when you put it on your project, the words are going to be backwards. You can see when I'm taking it here and I'm flipping it, it's now the way that it's supposed to be on your project. So you can do that. I have a full tutorial on this step on how to size your graphics, how to flip them so they're going to fit your projects. So what I did next was I took them in my Word program, I sized them to fit my project like we have here, and they're all ready now to put on our canvas, all set to go. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take our chalk paint and we're going to get this canvas painted. Okay, let's get painting this canvas here. I'm going to prop it up off the table so I don't have paint everywhere, because if you've been here for a while, you've seen how messy I can be. Got that propped up. And now the first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of wax around the outside of this frame, because when it's finished, I want that brown to kind of pop out a little bit. we're gonna take this pillar candle, and all you have to do is just kind of rub it on that whatever area that you don't want that paint to adhere. And that's how easy it is to incorporate wax as a resistant for your paint. So I'm just gonna take a little bit in the corners. We're gonna do it in the corners where you think that it would just naturally kind of age, and just put a little bit on. It honestly makes a really huge difference with your project when it's all finished. And that's all that we really need. We're gonna get out our new and improved chalk paint recipe that I'm really excited about and get painting. And I'm just using a white paint. This can be made into any color with a tester. You're not limited to just making this recipe with the white paint. But for today's project, I find that using a white paint behind a graphic works the best for it to pop and show through. So that's what we're gonna use. We're probably going to use maybe 2 coats of this chalk paint. I don't think 1 coat is going to give us enough coverage. And so we're going to put this first coat on. We're going to let it dry. And then we're going to come back and put a second coat on. The reason that we're using this chalk paint instead of just a regular latex paint when we're doing image transfers is because you want the Mod Podge from the image transfer to have something that it can soak into, where that chalk paint is really absorbent and it soaks in that Mod Podge and the toner from the laser printer and does a really nice transfer that way. So if you want to try this with a acrylic paint or a latex paint, I don't think you're going to have really great results. Try to stick to a chalk paint. When you're at the thrift store, this is going to open up a whole new world of crafting for you, because you're going to look at all of these frames and canvases with a different way of looking at it, because you can see what you can transform it into with the graphic transfers and not have to keep it in that dated print or the word signs. You can change it up to your style, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of times, one of the main questions that I get asked about this image transfer is, can I use an inkjet? Because a lot of my crafting friends, they don't have a laser printer. Although in the last little bit, laser printers have become really affordable. They're not that expensive anymore. And I've seen them for as low as $150. So before you go out and buy another inkjet printer, if you craft quite a bit, look into buying a laser printer, because I think you're gonna find that it's gonna work a lot better for you when you're using it for your DIY crafting projects, and especially for the image transfer. The inkjet printer, it will work. And I do have some comparison videos where I have done an inkjet printer transfer alongside a laser transfer, and you can see the difference. So it can be done, but it's a little bit more tricky, and I find it turns out maybe a little bit more faded, but the best results are with a laser printer. And of course, when you're doing projects like this, it's your preference how many coats that you put on. I always gravitate towards that rustic kind of farmhouse feel when I'm doing my signs. So I always like to maybe put on 2 coats, have little bits and pieces kind of showing through here and there. But if you like to have a real solid color, go ahead, put those 3 coats on, let it dry really well, and then it can fit your style however you like it. Okay, my 2 coats of chalk paint are completely dry. Now, this step is crucial. You want to make sure that your paint is completely dry, not even tacky, because it's really going to affect your transfer. So if you're a little worried about it, paint it up, set it aside, wait for the next day, put it out in the sun, but let it dry completely so there's not any tackiness left to your chalk paint. Okay, the most exciting part, image transfer time. We're gonna take the canvas off these 2 pieces of wood, set them aside, and let's start placing the image where it needs to go. So I have sized these. We have them all ready to be placed on the canvas. And get them set up. And you can fool around with this in your Word program, how big you want it. And maybe you want your B a little bit smaller and the words a little bit bigger. That's just going to be your preference, and you can fool around with it and see how you like it. But this is kind of how I've got this one set up, and how I think it's going to look really cute. And that looks pretty good. Now, I've done so many of these that I don't really use, I just use my eye when I'm doing it. But if you're new to this, it might be a good practice for the first couple times just to put some tape on everything and tape it in place before you start the graphic transfer. But I think this looks really cute. So let's get started. We're gonna get our Mod Podge mat out and we're gonna start doing the graphic transfer. When you're doing the graphic transfer like this, you don't want to keep all of the graphics on your project. You want to maybe just put 1 or 2 pieces on and then move on to the next section. So I'm just going to spin this around. I'm going to take off these bottom pieces and start from the top and work our way down. We're going to start just with these 2 little beehive. And I'm just using a regular paintbrush. You don't need very much. One of the biggest problems when you're getting started doing image transfers, people are using way too much product. You don't need very much. You just need a really light coat, just enough to cover that graphic. As you can see here, it's not much at all. When you put too much on, Mod Podge is thick, so it's going to look thick on your project and not look natural. So less is more. And we're going to place it exactly where we want it. And then you're just going to take your fingers and just gently get out any bubbles or wrinkles that might have happened. Just like that. And that's it. So we're going to go on to the next corner. Again, less is more. We don't need very much. Just a light coat. Putting on too much, bubbles, wrinkles, you're going to have a lump, a raised edge on your graphic when you're doing it. So try to avoid that. Okay, that looks perfect. Now we've got the busy bee, and we want to put it exactly where we want it. That looks good right there. And sometimes when you're doing these processes, you don't need to have it completely perfect. We're trying to replicate like an old sign, something that you're going to find maybe in an old general store or an old farmhouse, and they're never ever perfect. So if you get a little graphic that's a little bit crooked, it just kind of gives it a little bit of character, and it just makes it look more authentic. Again, we're just putting on just a light coat, less is more, making sure you're covering that entire graphic. You don't want to miss any pieces. And you want to make sure that when you're doing this transfer, don't let it dry. It has to be put on when it's wet. So you don't have to work super quick, but you can't take your time either. That looks pretty good. Right there. We're just going to rub it, get it down so it's nice and flat. Making sure you get right out to the edges. If you're going to have something that's not going to work really well with this transfer, you're going to have it be around the edges of the words because you haven't squished that product right out to the edge of that letter, and you won't get a good transfer. So just try to push it from, I like to maybe make a practice of going from the inside out when you're laying it down. And again, if you really love this graphic, I think it's really cute. It's in the Graphic Club. The way the Graphic Club works, it's a monthly membership, and I'll put the link down below and you can check it out. And we'll also put a QR code here. It's a monthly membership. You can sign up. It's got a library with hundreds of graphics in it. There's new graphics that are being added every week. And once you sign up, you can go to that library anytime you want, grab any graphic you want to use and craft with it affordably and use it as many times as you want. And if you are going to craft sales or you're a reseller, you don't have to worry about any copyright laws. You can go ahead and you can use any of these graphics and you can sell them. And we'd love to have you over there in the graphic club. We have lots of fun. And it's always a surprise every week when you open up your email and you see all the graphics that I've designed and you can start creating with. We're going to flip it over and make sure it's centered exactly where we want it. I've made some really fun signs over the time, and you can go back in my videos and see some of the stuff that I've created and find some inspiration, because there's some really neat stuff. I can take any piece of wood. I can find a piece of wood on the side of the road and I can bring it home and I can give it a painting technique and add a graphic to it. And they always are so fun to make. And they're one of my best sellers. So if you are going to craft sales or you are looking to make a little bit of money on the side, learn how to do this technique. Okay, again, we're going from the middle out, making sure we've got this pressed down really well. Let's go on to the reversed organic honey. Okay, we've got the graphic all on. And I've just kind of let it sit just for a minute because we'll see any bubbles or wrinkles that might start to come up that we can just push out and make sure that it's laying nice and flat. If we have a bubble underneath where a letter is, that graphic is not going to transfer. So we have to make sure that we have contact of all of that toner onto that chalk painted surface to ensure that we're going to have a really fun, great transfer. So our next step now is the one where you have to be patient. You have to set this aside and let it dry for 24 hours. This is really crucial. If you try to do the removal of the paper before that graphic has really dried, it's not going to transfer properly. And you're going to have all of this work that you've put into this project and not get great results. So let it set aside, let it dry completely, and then we'll go on to the next step. So we'll see you in 24 hours. Okay, it's been 24 hours and this graphic is completely dry and we're ready to rub the paper off. This is really important to let it sit, let it dry. What you're gonna need for this is a little dish of water, and you can use a sponge or you can use a little piece of cloth. Both work really well. The main thing that you're going to want to use when you're rubbing off the paper is just your fingers. It gives you a feel of any paper that's still left and you haven't rubbed it off yet. When you're using a little cloth or a sponge, sometimes you might rub too hard and you're going to start to take off that graphic. So I like to my favorite is to use a little rag. You're going to take your rag, start in the middle, and just rub until the graphic starts to show through. See how it looks darker? And you don't want to put a whole bunch of water on the whole project. You just want to do small bits because it's going to dry and you're going to start to lift the paint up underneath and it's going to affect the transfer. So just start in a small area, just rub the water on until it just starts to show through. And then I just go in with my fingers in a circular motion and just start to rub that paper off. And as you do, your graphics are going to be left on your project. The paper is rubbing off and we've got a beautiful transfer. This is the fun part. You'll feel the paper kind of roll up underneath your fingers. So you'll know that you have all of that paper off in that one area. And then you can go on to the next area. I'm going to stay right here and you can watch me take all of this paper off in this one area until we know that it's completely done. And you can see how we're getting a nice crisp black line there because all of the paper's off. And I can feel with my finger right now that that little area right here, the paper's gone because I can't feel it underneath my finger. So I know I can go on to the next area and start rubbing there. There, now see how all that haze is gone there? we have all of that paper rubbed off, and we have a beautiful transfer right in this area here. So this takes a little while. What I like to do, grab a coffee, grab a tea, sit down, relax, put some jazz music on, and just start to rub away this paper and enjoy the process. So I'm gonna work away at that. This technique is never perfect. You're always gonna have little bits and pieces of that graphic that are gonna rub off, and not intentionally. Just embrace them. That's all kind of the part of this technique, to have it look kind of rustic and kind of distressed. I also don't think I mentioned right from the very beginning, you probably saw, but it's just regular computer paper. You don't need any fancy computer paper. And actually, the cheaper the paper, the better the transfer is. So don't go and buy really heavy, thick computer paper to print on. Buy the cheapest stuff you can find. That just means that you're gonna have less paper that you're gonna have to rub off in the end. Now what we wanna do is we wanna kind of distress that frame a little bit and bring up that color underneath. And remember in the very beginning, we put the candle wax on. So when I start to sand, wherever there's gonna be any of that candle wax, it's gonna start to just kind of sand off, and then you're going to be able to see that color underneath. I just have some 180 grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to kind of lightly just kind of sand around wherever you think it would have naturally aged a little bit more. Just go a little bit more aggressive. You can see in this corner here, like that's going to be somewhere where it would have gotten picked up and naturally aged, and just kind of I'm just kind of aggressively sanding it because I feel like this graphic kind of has that farmhouse feel. So you want it pretty distressed, but depending on what type of graphic you're doing and what type of transfer it is, you can determine how you want your paint finish to be in the end. And you're not limited to just going outside the frame either. If you feel you want to have a little bit of a distressed area within, you can just kind of sand it a little bit here and there. And because this is canvas underneath, it will sand off really easy too. You just want to make it look natural. You just don't want to have a hunk sanded off in the middle of somewhere where it just doesn't look all that great. And we also don't want to forget about the sides either. And we'll just give that a nice sand too to blend all in. There, I think that looks really great. What I might do though, just as a finishing touch, if there's any little high spots of paint or a little bit of paper that we might have missed, I'm just gonna go over with the sandpaper over the entire graphic. We don't wanna push too hard, especially over where the graphics are. We don't wanna sand that off, but just a light brush. Now, if you've gotten to this point and you still find you have a bit of a white haze on some of your graphics, that just means that you still have paper on it and you just have to maybe spend a little bit more time rubbing it off. But right now, this looks fantastic, and I think I've gotten all of the paper off of it. And also, even if you have just a little bit of a haze, that's okay, because I find when you put your top coat on, it's going to blend all in and you're not going to see it anyways. Now we're ready for the top coat. And this is really important, to use a water-based polyacrylic sealer. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you don't want to use an oil-based sealer because it's going to yellow over time. And you can use Mod Podge as a top coat. I don't care for it. I find that it's thick, it's milky, and it never really gives that nice crystal clear finish. So I prefer the polyacrylic. You don't need to put very much on. Just enough just to put a top coat and seal in those graphics that we just put on our project. The other nice thing about using a polyacrylic sealer is it dries really quickly, so you don't have to wait for your project to sit and dry for a few hours. Within 10 or 15 minutes, that sealer on the top is going to be dry and going to be finished. I don't find that you need any more than one coat either. I just put a nice light coat on top, and that seals it up really nice. it's all done. We're gonna set this aside. We're gonna let it dry for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're gonna show you the finished product. And we have finished our graphic transfer. If you have not tried this technique, give it a try. It's so much fun, and the possibilities are endless.